Hey, I am Jeremy Seacrest. I'm the marketing director at the Evansville Christian Life Center. And with me, I have the lovely and talented Eric Cummings from Community One and Gina Gibson from the Evansville Christian Life Center. And we're just starting a series, what hopefully is a series of talks on issues that affect our community. And just to learn and delve more into those issues and to give you options and opportunities to get involved within that. So first, both of our organizations one of the primary issues that we deal with is poverty. And so, Eric, if you can just talk about the problems poverty causes in Evansville and what Community One does to work in that space.
It's a great question, and there's so many different ways to define poverty. But I think when we get down to the core of it, it's people who live without resources, and whatever those may be, monetary, spiritual, financial, education, whatever those resources might be. And that just creates deficits in people's lives, and the lack of ability sometimes to even address them effectively. So we find in many of the areas of our community where people are living without resources or living impoverished in some way, that by engaging people directly, working in neighborhoods and working with people, not only to do relief work but development work as well, that we can help to restore those resources and help people to start to provide for themselves. So I think it's really just addressing this issue of people living without resources. In Community One, we focus in areas like housing restoration, neighborhood revitalization, and just building collaborative groups to work together to address these issues.
Cool. So when you say housing restoration, can you talk about where we're at right now and why your office looks so amazing?
Sure. Really, we focus in two areas, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about relief and redevelopment, but on the relief side of things, we provide immediate home repairs. These are just repairs for people who own and live in their homes, have a genuine need for help, but cannot, through physical or financial reasons or means, provide for themselves. And so we work with churches and businesses and local volunteers to help just fix people's homes. And then on the larger sense, like where we're at today, we're at one of our whole house rehabs, where we work to take abandoned vacant housing that's blighting our city, to completely gut it, renovate it, and make it affordable new housing, newish housing for low-income families. So we provide that relief help with repairs, but also give families an opportunity to own their own home and in a way that helps to build their lives up.
Awesome. Yeah. Gina, talk about the Evansville Christian Life Center and how you see some of the problems that poverty affects our community, and then the role of the Evansville Christian Life Center, which is different but lead toward the same higher objective in our community.
Okay. Some of the things that poverty causes that we see are addiction issues, issues with housing, issue with food insecurities, issues with raising their children just not lacking all of the resources that it takes for their family. And so as the Evansville Christian Life Center, we provide a multitude of services, whether it be from healthcare at our clinic or from our parenting area that we have, helping parents be the parents that God created them to be, raising them up and educating them, or our life skills classes that they can take while they're in that area, or our GAIN anti-poverty initiative. Through that anti-poverty initiative, we are walking alongside of families, helping them connect the dots to the community, to the resources and tools to be successful. So we know that we don't do it all, and nor do we want to, but we partner with organizations like Community One and others in the community to help our families move forward on their journey out of poverty. So really it's building that relationships and helping them realize their potential that they have for their lives.
Can you talk about, when you say potential, what does someone's potential and they're trying to achieve that, how does that affect the greater community?
Oh, wow. Once someone gets out of being what some would say, a drain to society, and not helping them just move forward out of that, getting them stable housing, helping them realize that maybe working a minimum wage job, they need to find something better. Well, you have to have skills and education for that. And so helping them achieve those things, that we can partner with them and help them move along on that journey. But it also means, from the potential side, they have hope. we're literally being their cheerleaders and coming alongside of them and helping to provide just that stability in just being an intentional friendship also.
Awesome. So today we're going to talk about the topic of community development. You may or may not be familiar with it. By the end of today, you will be. But before that, I wanted to just talk a little bit about, we personally are all followers of Jesus, and our organizations are Christian faith-based organizations dedicated to following what we think are the commands of Jesus. And so how would you speak to, the Bible speaks a lot about valuing the marginalized. It talks about the widow and the orphan, and a lot of times the widow and the orphan can also apply to anyone who is marginalized for a variety of reasons, and we as followers of Jesus want to extend that love. But how would you see, how would that apply in what you do at Community One and how you do it?
I think the Bible's very clear in that there's probably, how do I say that? There's not really an expectation that you see in the Bible that everyone is going to be completely independent and self-sufficient.
That's right.
You know, that we are designed as individuals and as God's people to live in community, to be in community, to thrive in community, and to help one another in life. And that's clear all throughout the Bible, from the Old Testament to the New, about how we are to engage those who are around us. And so we accept that responsibility and we accept that challenge to be people who engage our community. Jesus calls us to love our neighbors as ourselves out of our love for God. And that's a very clear commandment. It's actually very simple. You know, what would you do for yourself if you had the resources that you have and you were in the situation that many people around you are in? And it's the right thing to do as well. Even for people who don't claim a faith of some type, helping one another is the right thing to do. But we do it because of this inspiration to love our neighbors. That's kind of the core and the heart of what we do. And then through that, to build a movement of love and a movement of helping one another in the community as well. So we're very much inspired by Christ's commandments to love, and that's at the core of all of the work that we do.
Awesome. Gina, with that, at the Life Center, we talk about potential, and potential can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and especially when we're talking about marginalized, because marginalized may not even be who we're serving. In some instances, it might be somebody exactly like myself who might have circumstances that cause them to lose a job or this or that. And so can you speak to what potential might look like, maybe with some examples in different cases that the types of people we see on a daily basis?
Sure. I mean, it could be the single mom who has 3 children under the age of 5, and she's working a minimum wage job, and she's struggling, and knowing that she's not going to be able to provide a long-term sustainability with the situation that she's in. And so what does that look like? And partnering with the Evansville Christian Life Center, we can help her find those resources to move forward. But you know, it could be someone who just lost their job. You know, if one of us loses our jobs, we're going to network with friends. We're going to call everyone. We're going to talk to them. And folks in poverty don't have that social network system. They just don't have it. And so that's one of the things that we're providing for folks. So it could be someone who's never been in this position before. They could have actually been a donor of ours, and they could come in and literally, like, I know I've been given to these services all these years, but I now need some of these. How do I do this? What does that look like? And so that's partnering with that person, coming alongside of them, finding out, meeting with them and finding out what their needs are, finding out that we need to help them connect to find another job. Maybe it's finding more skill, a skill level. And so helping them connect those dots, that's one of the things that the Evansville Christian Life Center feels like we do, I think, very well, and that's help connect the dots in the community to get those resources to move forward and to be successful.
Awesome. Okay, so we said we're talking about community development, so I'm going to let Eric, who does community development, explain what community development is and just what it looks like.
Yeah. Wow, that's a big topic.
You have 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I would say community development, and maybe if I focused it a little bit more sharply, maybe neighborhood revitalization, is simply this idea of people working together to create great places to live, to build or maybe even rebuild great places to live. And so it's just a collaborative movement of kind of putting things back together that along the way have either fallen apart or failed or declined in some way. We do most of this work in the core urban neighborhoods of Evansville, which have experienced disinvestment and decline over many, many years. And it's really just engaging neighborhoods in ways that help them to recover. So we've learned also from working in neighborhoods over the years that the best approach to this work is not to go into a neighborhood and tell everybody what they need to do or what needs to be done. But to ask them what they believe needs to be done. The experts on our community and our neighborhoods are the people who live there, the residents of those communities. And so community development is at its best when it listens well to people. And so some of the things that we might do is build relationships in communities over time, maybe through our housing programs or working through partnerships. And then work with neighborhood leaders to help the residents articulate their priorities, their dreams, what's important to them about their community, to document those things, to publish maybe a playbook of activity on how to achieve those, and then to invest in leadership, to invest in the neighbors and residents, to get them engaged and involved, working at the things that are important to them. And that's where the energy for community development or neighborhood revitalization comes from and how it's sustained. Now, of course, along that process, when you work in neighborhoods that have been disinvested or have declined over time, you naturally would reach some barriers to resources and capacity. And when we reach those barriers, our role as a lead agency is to help them find partners and other community partners like nonprofits and government agencies or businesses or organizations who have expertise and resources to come alongside of neighborhood residents and help them achieve those dreams. So really this is a process of listening, aligning the needs of people, bringing action and activity to those goals, and then measuring, reporting back the progress, and then continuing through that process again. So it's listen, align, act, evaluate, measure, and then repeat, kind of like laundry.
Yeah.
But it's a long-term process. I mean,
Sure.
neighborhoods take decades to decline. We don't fix them overnight. They don't fix themselves overnight. This is engaging in relationship and engaging in partnership over a long period of time.
Can you give some examples of, like, because you've been doing this how long now?
Quite a few years in Evansville. Yeah,
Okay. Just some examples of some of the specific things you guys have done, and then maybe some effects, exciting stories or things you've seen along those lines.
I think, and we learn from every experience that we have. We learn in every neighborhood. I think, first of all, the things that we've learned is that you have to have the correct posture entering neighborhoods. We are not the experts.
Yeah.
We are here to help. We're here to listen. We're here to help resource and to guide and to assist. So the correct posture is always important. The experts are the residents. And listening to them, some of the neighborhoods we work in, it's interesting, are kind of avoided and feared by many people in our community, or they're labeled.
Sure.
What we find out is that our neighbors in many of the neighborhoods we work in are hardworking, they are resourceful, they're innovative problem solvers. They just need resources and partners to help them achieve their dreams. So, the greatest dimension of community development or neighborhood revitalization is the people that you get to work with. Understanding people, building relationships, tearing down barriers, clearing up, these false ideas and impressions that we have of people, and getting down to the work. And I will say this, that we've learned over the several neighborhoods that we've worked in over time, is everybody really wants the same things for their neighborhoods. They want decent schools. They want their families to thrive. They want decent housing. They want a safe neighborhood to raise their family. Everybody wants the same things.
Sure.
They may articulate them a little bit differently, but really at the core, we all want and need the same things, regardless of what neighborhood we live in. So I would say working with people, learning about people, empowering and allowing people to succeed on their own in a sense that they own the work and sustain it. Those are just great experiences that we've had. And then to see the change that comes. There's a physical change that comes along the way as well. But it's not so much about that as it is, and Gina, you mentioned this too, and it's an important element of all of this work. Empowering people and allowing them to change their lives brings hope.
Yeah.
And I will say this, hope is a measurable thing.
It is.
When people look out their window and say, in 5 years, this is going to be a better place to live than it is today, hope rises. People people change, spirit grows, all sorts of interesting things happen when we help to restore hope. And we do that simply by engaging people, by valuing them, by loving them, and allowing them to have control over their lives and some say in way things go, and then in ways that they can actually do that.
And we're just there to walk alongside of them and to be that intentional friend to them and help them on that walk. We're being a neighbor, even though it's not our physical neighbor, we're being a neighbor wherever we go to partner with them and help them move on.
Absolutely. And we talk about our Christian faith, and it's clear that when Jesus teaches about who our neighbors are, it's the people that need us.
Yes.
And it's the people that we encounter in life all around us that need our help. Those are our neighbors. And so whether the people the next door, that's a neighbor, but the people in the next neighborhood or downtown or across town, those are our neighbors too. And we're here to love and serve them and to be enriched by the things that they have to offer to us as well.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to throw another question your way. I know you and I have talked about this before, but as believers, followers of Jesus, how would you connect the work you do at Community One with people call the Great Commission or sharing the gospel of Jesus, and just where is the tie in that?
I would say, and this is just my own kind of perspective, I think there's three very important teachings of Jesus that people who follow Christ, Christians, should have at the forefront of their thinking from the way that they organize their life. The first is, the Great Commandment. Love God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's the marching orders for love. That kind of puts it into perspective on what it is we're supposed to be about. Out of our love for God, who loved us first, we have the energy and the opportunity to love other people. The second one, so that would be the Great Commandment. The second would be kind of the Great Compassion, I've heard it called, the Matthew 25. We could talk a lot about relief work and about redevelopment work, but the bottom line is we are to be about helping people who have needs that we can meet.
Right.
Yep.
And that's food and clothing and shelter and those types of things. And there's a way to do that that's productive and helpful. And so the great compassion, Matthew 25, helping people because they need help. And the third would be the Great Commandment, and that is to go. To get out of our comfort zone, to get out of our circle, to get out of our church pew, or get out of where we're stuck, and to go to places where people need the hope of Jesus Christ. And you can tell people a lot about Jesus, but I can tell you this: when you walk through life with people, when you serve with people, when you help people, you have their complete attention. They're willing to listen, and because they want to know why you do what you do. They want to understand this love that you have, because it's not a worldly kind of love. It's not an average or everyday kind of love.
Sure.
And when you do what you do, or the types of work that we do or we help others do, out of love for people, it illuminates these things that Christ puts into our hearts, and it gives people a desire to understand that more deeply. So, and that's evangelism.
Yeah.
We do what we do out of our love for Christ, and that's a story that should be shared. And through the work that we all do, we have the opportunity to share that with people.
Absolutely.
Very cool. So in talking about community development, they do it directly. That's Community One's one of your primary efforts. It's not a specific initiative of the Life Center,
Right.
but how does that dovetail with what we do?
Well, when we meet with individuals, we're finding out what their specific needs are. So we're doing some of that relief work right up front, providing food and clothing. And so from that, obviously, housing issues are a problem. And so we're coming alongside, and like I said, we're helping connect those dots in the community to what organizations are doing that. So physically, we're doing it in that way, but we're sharing Christ and giving them hope. And no one can live without hope. And so we're sharing Christ and giving them hope so that they can move forward on that journey. And I know I keep saying that, moving forward, because that's just the piece of what we provide, is helping them find those tools and resources to do that. And so we may not be revitalizing a house. I'm glad I'm not construction oriented. So
It'd be hard to do in high heels.
Yeah, it would. Really hard. So, but someone has to do it. And so you're coming into the neighborhoods and you are loving on neighbors that are here. Even though you're working on this house, I am sure you're meeting other neighbors around here and being able to share the love of Christ. And so I know I heard someone say once, Ross Chapman, say, get off of the Lloyd Expressway and drive the back ways. Get out of your box And so we, as Christ followers, can truly get out of our box and find those ways that you can get into neighborhoods and you can help. But it's not going into a neighborhood and saying, I'm going to do this for you. You're right. It's going in and listening to what they have and what the needs are. So I think that's sometimes some of the things that we do is listen to what the needs are and then help point and steer them in the right direction.
I would just add to that too. I think, Gina, both of our organizations do this as well. There is a learning curve here, and just being present and learning and listening and trying to and coming with an open mind and an open heart to understand the realities of people's lives. That's such an important first step in really making a difference in the lives of people. There isn't one solution. There isn't one template. There isn't one thing that is the magic bullet for people's lives. You know, this is about relationship. This is about engagement. This is about friendship. This is about caring for people in a way that you would care for people that you love, and learning about those things and being open to it. It's very easy, and all of us have done it, and we've stereotyping people or neighborhoods or things like that. And it's easy to say, well, you shouldn't do that. But, it's important for people to come and see and understand. Will you have all the answers? No. Should you be afraid of it? Absolutely not. Learning is an important part of our work. So in addition to the things that the direct impact that we can have in the lives of people, the indirect or the kind of tertiary impact even might be people learn over time to adjust their thinking into the realities of what life is like for many of our neighbors in the community, and that we're all really the same and want the same things for our families and for one another. So there's a lot of learning that goes on, and we're all focused on education of those that we serve and those that we serve with as well.
Yeah, and the key is just those relationships, building those relationships. And that's how you're going to move forward. And then they realize you're not coming in to tell them how to do it. You're coming in to ask their opinion and how do you think this needs to go. That's a total different perspective.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about kind of big picture, how we kind of interface with each other. And I know we both collaborate with other organizations. Can you guys just talk a little bit about because I'm assuming an average person who's not on staff at a nonprofit, might not understand, one, how many nonprofits and organizations and work is already being done,
Right.
and two, are the organizations fighting for funds? Are they competing with each other, or how does that look like in working together and collaborating? Eric.
Me first?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Great. There's a couple different questions in there. I'll try to
address what you want.
Let's talk about this idea of collaboration and partnership first. And from our perspective at Community One, we have impact all over the city, but we have a very small staff. We never designed ourselves to be a big staff full of contractors and people waiting to go out and to do work. We designed ourselves to be a small group of leaders who can motivate and mobilize the church and local businesses and anyone in the community that wanted to take part in making change. So most all of our work is done by volunteers, it's done by partners and others outside of our organization. So we try to remain very small and lean and effective as leaders and mobilizers, but not actually necessarily doing all of the work ourselves. So our whole organization is oriented around this idea of partnership and collaboration. We wouldn't succeed or we wouldn't be able to do anything that we do without those partnerships. And so that's kind of our thinking. Of course, when we first began, it was really pointed most intensely towards the church, providing opportunities for the people of God to discover and join the mission of God, which is serving and loving our neighbors. And so we have lots of on-ramps and opportunities for churches to engage with us, and we can provide kind of the platform that they can just come right from the church, right into the communities in a way that's organized and helpful, and they can learn and engage. So partnership is a big part of what we do in collaboration. And that also extends to, like we talk about neighborhood revitalization work. We aren't going to be the experts on everything. We need Christian life centers with game programs and educational programs, and we need all the nonprofits across the spectrum that might have services that they provide in the areas of priority that neighborhood residents identify. We don't want to be all things to all people. We want to do the piece that's ours and do it well, and then allow the experts in the areas to engage in their partnership and do the things that they do well. And that's where we really That's where we really see progress, but it's also where we see the best investment of resources. I could duplicate every process or program in the community, but that would not be a very good investment of time and resources, and it would certainly be a waste of money.
Yeah.
And so if we all do the things that we're best at, working together, there will be plenty for everyone to accomplish their mission.
Yeah. Well, it takes a community to end poverty. I mean, that's what's going to take, all of us working together and you doing your piece, us doing our piece. And you said something that is meaningful to the Evansville Christian Life Center, and that's doing what you do best. You know, we do 11 different programs. We used to do a lot more than that. And we've honed it into what is the work that we do best now in helping families. And so that's what we're called to do. And we partner with other agencies who do the other pieces better than we do. And that's you with revitalizing homes, Habitat with building new homes. And we partner with all of those organizations. Now, it's not easy to partner. It's not easy to do that collaboration because everybody thinks what they're doing is the way it should be, but that's what it takes for us to be successful in this community. And so I think that our organizations work very well together along with many others, and we actually collaborate with over 150 different agencies. That's a lot of partnerships, but that's what it takes to make changes, lasting impact changes in the community.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So in talking about the community, as we kind of wrap up, if you could summarize like the vision or picture you have of a future Evansville 5, 10, 50 years from now, what might that look like?
I always kind of default back to this idea of inspired love. You know, a community where people care about one another, they take care of each other, they love one another, and that there is a thriving and a movement in that love. I've heard it called shalom, where things are as they should be. People are reconciled to one another and to God, and things are the way that they are designed to be. I think this thriving of a community and this movement of love towards one another is what I would hope to see in Evansville. What about you?
I would hope that people understand what poverty looks like and love their neighbors so that in 2029 or 2030, we're not looking at the amount of poverty that we're looking at right now, and that families are housed in safe and affordable housing, and they're working jobs that are livable wages and things that they can help them and their family and the future generations. You know, one of the things that we're doing right now is we are not only working with those families, we're working with their children because we're affecting the next generation. And so if we show them how much hope there is in this area and helping them to move out of that where they've been, that's what's going to change the community for a lasting impact.
Yeah. All right, as we end out, if I'm watching this video and I resonate with what's being said, what's one way I could learn more or get involved in Community One?
About every month we do what we call a hard hat lunch. And we set a table and bring a meal in a house just like this. And for people who don't know anything about our work or maybe know a little bit about our work, and I give a brief presentation, we buy you lunch, we get to know you, talk about ways you could engage with us. So if you'd like to have lunch in a place like this, come to a Community One hard hat lunch.
Fun. But
Well,
to get on the Evansville Christian
we
Life
have
Center.
tours, and so we would love to take you on a tour. So if you haven't been to the Evansville Christian Life Center within the last year, there's been a lot of changes from new programming and just construction in the building that we'd love for you to tour and hear all the work that's going on and all the changes that are happening. So you can go to restoringpeople.com and you can book a tour. It takes 40 to 45 minutes of your time. We can even do it over your lunch hour with one person or as many as you want to come. So we'd love to invite you to do that. Now, when Eric has his hard hat lunch, he needs to lay a little bit more floor in this building before they have hard hat lunch.
Gina has about 12 inches before she would step off into a basement below where we're sitting.
Yes. So I'm sitting very still if you haven't noticed.
It'll be safe.
Okay, good.
Thank you very much for listening to this conversation. I hope it was helpful in gaining awareness or education. If you have any questions, let any of us know. You can contact us through our website, and hopefully we'll